Black folks, let's be real. Jane Elliott ain't out here talking about no racism and color theory no more. They asked her the real question and she answered it just like she want to. Y'all been riding through Jane Elliott coattail for years. There's a whole industry of white folks who turn anti-racism into a side hustle. They cry on stage, they do workshops, they write books, they get speaking fees, they go on speaking engagements, they get on YouTubes, all for explaining our struggle right back to us, except for with a white face. And we believe them a little bit more because they got a white face and they saying it. And who eats first? Them. Who gets silenced? Black folks, black voices, black content creators. They love playing the hero as long as it don't cost them nothing. Talk about equity, they're real loud. We talk about reparations, shh, they get quiet. They vanish. Or either like old Jane said, she prefer the natives get reparations and not black folks. And the reason why I call Jane Elliott, who many people would regard as an ally and an anti-racism educator, the reason why I called her a grifter is because for close to 7 decades, she has profited off of racism and the work of anti-racism education at the expense of black people. However, in the same breath, she does not believe in reparations. It's very problematic, in my personal opinion, that a white woman who has benefited handsomely, who has profited off of racism, black pain, the black experience, can turn around and say that American descendants of slavery do not deserve reparations. That reparations isn't the solution, reparations isn't the answer, even though those black people are experiencing racism and the effects of, we are still feeling the effects of slavery to this day. Those effects with which she uses to establish her career. Does that make sense? As for her Blue Eyes, Brown Eyes experiment, which was groundbreaking for its time in the sense that it was a very simple and in-your-face way to get white people to understand racism from the eyes of their own children. That experiment is and was pretty unethical, so it wouldn't fly today. However, at the time, I really do understand the use of it and the way it impacted people. That being said, her approach to anti-racism, to educating people, never grew from that. It's been very one note throughout the years. And I can understand people being like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's simple, it's in your face. But is it an effective tool? I love that you said Race 101, because that's exactly what it is, has been, and what it remains. Unfortunately, she is speaking to adults. And when you are speaking to adults, you need to take a different approach entirely. Anytime we see this woman doing this work in a space where she is acting as the leader, she is not leading from a place of empathy. She is not leading or creating an environment of openness. It's very much scolding. It's very much condescending. And that type of leadership is not impactful. It is not a space in which people can grow and learn impactfully. It is a place and an environment of shame. I do not find Jane Elliott's approach to be helpful, useful, impactful to anyone or anything other than her ego. When it comes to the work of anti-racism, we have more tools. We have better language now to further this education and to reach people. Jane does not seem interested in updating her toolkit, and the way she operates in this space, in my personal opinion, very much comes off as a self-promoting, self-beneficiary way, and not for the good of the community and really making an impact. It's very self-beneficiary as opposed to community beneficiary, if that makes sense. The reason why I call it community with marginalized, the video that's recently surfaced of Jane Elliott using the N-word hard R during Black History Month and doubling down and gaslighting the person who called her out instead of apologizing can teach us a couple of things. First things first, being an ally does not mean you are above reproach or criticism and that your anti-racism education journey is over. The work of anti-racism and educating ourselves is constant work. It is everyday work. And that doesn't change even if you are an educator or a leader in this space. Jane Elliott is a world-renowned diversity educator who is held in high esteem for her work over the past few decades. She is what many would regard as an ally. However, just because you are an ally and are in community with marginalized group does not give you carte blanche to say slurs. Just because she's held in such high esteem, however, does not mean she is above reproach or correction. When you watch the video of her reaction as she is confronted
confronted, she dismisses the person who calls her out for using this word. Not only does she dismiss him, she scolds him in front of everybody. In that space, she was regarded as a leader. There was a power dynamic there. And instead of her to use her leadership for better and to use it as a teaching moment for not just herself, but everybody else, she instead decided to use it to belittle him, going as far as to justify her use of the N-word because she is in community with that person, presumably the Black person she used that word towards. He knew what she meant and how she meant it. It's giving non-Black people who use the N-word, who think it's okay for them to use the N-word because they're not white, and it will forever be a no. What this situation can also teach us, and shout out to the person who confronted her and called her out, is that sometimes in a room, it's going to be only you who's going to be the one to stand up and use your voice. Sometimes it is very scary to be in those situations, especially when there is a power dynamic that is present like there was with Jane Elliott in that space. The work of anti-racism and unconscious bias often means having uncomfortable conversations. The person who called her out, you could hear the fear and almost the hesitation in his voice, but he stayed resolute, he stayed strong, and I applauded him for that in light of Jane actively not only gaslighting him, but then using everybody else in the room to gaslight him into questioning or trying to gaslight him into questioning what he heard and what happened. When you watch the video, please go and watch the video. I will tag the creator in the comments and in this video as well. Everyone had a visceral and instinctive, instant reaction when she said that word. You heard everybody react. When he addresses that everybody, or the majority of the people in the room, very likely heard her say that, everybody in the room just goes, no, no. She turns it around on him and then says, oh, speak for yourself, and shames him into even bringing it up because she said all of these good things, but that one thing is all he could focus on. What she did was straight up nasty work, very nasty work. The work of anti-racism is not easy. Sometimes you will be the only one in the room speaking up for what is right, but you speak up regardless. Jane Elliott and other diversity, equity, inclusion leaders and speakers in this space, we are forever learning. The work of anti-racism is never over. And just because you call yourself an ally does not mean you are above reproach or being called in.
You want to talk about reparations? We pay reparations. What do you mean you want reparations?
Y'all stay
Our
with me.
taxpayer dollars, which are mostly white people paying that, goes to, what is it? Affordable housing, government programs, EBT, scholarships, DEI, you guys getting jobs. Holy shit. Let's take all that, factor in the theft, factor in the crime, factor it in the murders, and then we'll talk about reparations on this show. How about that? You probably won't like that, will you? Because you're not going to like the numbers. But we are all, frankly, exhausted.
Okay, so let's start here. Your entire rant was rooted in racist stereotypes, emotional talking points, and misinformation, not facts. Because saying Black Americans already receive reparations through EBT, affordable housing, DEI, scholarships, and government programs is not only racially offensive, it's intellectually dishonest. But honestly, I'm not even surprised. Because at its core, racism is born of ignorance. An ignorance of history, an ignorance of systems, an ignorance of the very advantages people mistake for superiority. And in your ignorance, you actually seem proud while repeating those talking points. Like putting Black people down somehow gives you this strange sense of superiority. But I'm not here to protect your comfort, because what you completely ignored is who those programs primarily benefit and why many of them were created in the first place. You also simply skipped over that for some of those programs, Black people weren't even eligible when they were created. White Americans make up the largest raw number of recipients in those very programs that you mentioned. Those programs were not created exclusively for Black people. They were created for Americans. But you painted them like some secret pipeline of wealth flowing only to Black communities. Meanwhile, if we're actually following the money, your community still overwhelmingly holds the largest share of wealth, land ownership, inherited assets, corporate control, and political influence in this country. That didn't happen by accident. It happened because your ancestors were allowed to build wealth uninterrupted for generations. Through land ownership, subsidized home ownership, business access, voting rights, legal protections, and government-backed opportunities. While Black Americans, on the other hand, were enslaved, then segregated, then redlined, and then excluded from loans, neighborhoods, schools, contracts, and wealth building opportunities by law and policy. So, no, history didn't just magically disappear because the calendar changed. And DEI is not some magical free Black jobs program either. DEI exists because this country actually spent generations excluding qualified people from jobs, universities, housing, contracts, and opportunities based on race and gender alone. Ironically, you white women have statistically benefited from diversity and affirmative action efforts more than any other group in this country. But suddenly, when Black Americans benefit just a little bit from inclusion, people like you call it unfair. Many of you actually vote against your own interests just to preserve your entitlement to privilege, but then claim that privilege doesn't exist. Interesting, isn't it? And where were voices like yours when Black veterans came home from serving this country, only to be denied many of the same housing and educational opportunities that helped build the white middle class? Where were you when banks literally drew red lines around Black neighborhoods and denied loans to qualified Black families? Where were you when Black Americans were legally locked out of competition altogether? You see, while your parents and your grandparents were often free to build wealth, buy property, move wherever they wanted, and accumulate security, many Black families were surviving Jim Crow, racial terror, voter suppression, and legalized discrimination. And yes, those systems were strongly enforced under American law. Now let's address your crime narrative, because every time any subject about race or Black people comes up, someone tries to weaponize crime statistics while ignoring the very conditions that produce crime in the first place. We all know that poverty and crime correlate across every racial group. When communities are historically underfunded, segregated, denied investment, over-policed, and blocked from wealth-building opportunities for generations, social outcomes suffer. That is not a Black defect. That is what inequality produces. And finally, your stupid idea that only white people pay for America is one of the most arrogant, historically ignorant narratives imaginable. Black Americans work. We pay taxes. We serve in the military. And we build businesses. We also contribute to Social Security, Medicare, payroll taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, and federal taxes, just like every other citizen. But you already know that. So this conversation is not about begging anyone for anything. It's about whether America is mature enough to honestly confront the long-term damage created by its own policies, instead of hiding behind foolish stereotypes every time accountability enters the room. That is the real conversation. Let me know when you're ready to have it.
So, guys, apparently our favorite person, we love Jane Elliott here, and I'm sure you guys are a fan of her, because every time I put up a video about her, you guys watch it a lot and you share. I know that you like her from the way that you behave with the videos that I make of her. So apparently Jane Elliott was asked a question about reparations, and she is one of those people that actually believe that Black Americans or Black people, the Black community, does not deserve reparations. And um, I know how that must make you feel, because she has for a very long time been trying to prove that she is an ally. She's been trying to, make people believe that she is pro Black people and she loves Black people. So you wouldn't expect that she would do anything that would hurt Black people. And for that reason, I decided to make this video so that I get your feedback on that. Now, the people that watched that interview and saw her doing that, how did that make you feel? I noticed every time that I make a video of her, there are people that come to the comment section and say, don't be fooled by her. She's not for reparations for Black people. And that has been continuous for a very long time. So I decided to just make this video and um, have this discussion with you guys. So how does that make you feel, and how do you feel about the other lessons that she teaches? Because I believe most of you are a fan of how she teaches her anti-racism stuff and everything that she has put, all the work that she has put in over the years to educate the white people on not being racist, on loving Black people, accepting them, encouraging Black people to love themselves, to, trying to make them feel as though, they belong and they should never feel inadequate for whatever reason. Now, how does this now come in to change all these things? Because I do not understand how you can be for people and then you are against them on something that was supposed to benefit them in a very big way. For me, I have always said it here that I am fully for reparations. I believe that Black people deserve it because of everything that they were made to go through. Their ancestors, Black people have had to pass through a lot for them to get to where they are. And for the very reason that their ancestors were blocked from actually making wealth and being successful. They were not given the opportunity, not the chance, and that is the only reason why they did not make wealth. And yeah, for that reason, that's a very big reason. They need to be given reparations because, well, you cannot make up for anything unless you're willing to give up a lot, And I'm sure that America is thinking of how much it's going to cost them and all that, and that's why they do not want to pay reparations to Black people. Instead of thinking of all the achievements that they have now courtesy of the Black people and the Black community at large, they are paying more attention to what they are about to lose, so they end up not giving the reparations or even talking about it. Yeah, so my stand basically is that Black people deserve it. They have been disadvantaged unfairly, and for that reason, they need to be compensated for that. I am usually saying here every other time that you cannot apologize for the things that Black people have gone through. You cannot afford any kind of apology if you're not giving reparations, because word of mouth, just saying sorry about what happened, is not enough. It can never be enough. It will never be enough. So if you really mean to make peace, to make amends with Black people, then make sure that you're doing the reparations for them, because that is all that they're asking. Every time you talk to Black people and ask them what they think would work, something that would help them to at least feel the apology, they always talk about the reparations. So that means that that is the only thing that they are willing and ready to take as compensation for the things that they have had to go through unfairly. And if America was just, if America upheld the moral of honesty, then that is the best thing that they were supposed to do for Black people in a very long time. They should have done it by now already. But it's sad that this is not even a discussion that they hold. It's not something that crosses their mind. The people that are concerned, they don't talk about it, they don't question, they don't even try to, know how they can do this thing. They keep asking questions of how are they even supposed to make the divisions, who really deserves what and what not. And you see, that is supposed to be a whole discussion. I'm sure Black people have people that will speak on their behalf, people that will have all these things sorted out, because by the time they're talking about being given reparations, they already know how they want it done, and they know who deserves it and what amount and for what. But now the fact that this government is not even talking about it, they're not interested in making their amends, that is exactly what it rings in my mind, that they're not ready for their amends. However they talk, however they try to behave as though they are really paying attention and trying to understand Black people, they're really not trying to do much. Because if they were, they would be talking about reparations at this point. Yeah, guys, so that is what I have for you. And it's a short video, I know. I would like to know your thoughts about this. What do you think about reparations, and how's this thing supposed to be done? And do you really think that it's ever going to happen? Because if we are having this kind of a discussion right now, 2026, then it means there's approximately a few years to come that people will fully be ready for the discussion. And that is going to take a while. So what do you guys think about reparations, really, from the deep part of your hearts? What do you think about them? And what do you think about Jane Elliott being against reparations? How does that make you feel? And how does it change the fact that you have loved her over the years, and you have loved her lessons, you have loved how she teaches anti-racism and all that? Yeah, let me know in the comment section. If you have not subscribed to my channel, kindly consider doing that right now. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate each and every one of you for the support. I see you over there in the comment section. I see the likes, I see the shares, I see the comments, I see everything that you do over there on my videos, and I really appreciate each and every one of you guys. I'll see you on my next video, so bye for now.